Hi, I'm excited to share with you my new tool MR Animate Points. Many animators I know tend to avoid point animation due to several drawbacks. The idea behind this tool is to give animators the best possible experience when animating points and to solve the main problems associated with it. So, the first issue, which in some cases make point animation completely impossible, is the presence of bugs that have unfortunately existed for almost 10 years. If your rig includes smart bones that move points in a group bound to a bone, or control Bezier handles, you won't be able to animate them properly because they'll behave incorrectly. In this tool, I've worked on solving those issues so that transformations are always accurate. The next problem that pushes many animators away from point animation is that keyframes are not all located on the main skeleton layer, but instead scattered across multiple layers, making them hard to manage or edit. I've found a solution for this too, but we'll talk about it a bit later. Another issue is an ability to transform points across multiple layers at once, which is also resolved in this tool. Let's go over all the features of this tool. First, it works both on vector layers and group layers. This means you can animate points while staying on the character's skeleton layer. To help you stay focused and maintain a clean viewport, by default you will only work with points on visible layers. But if you want to transform all layers, you can disable the visible layers only option. Points on different layers are colored differently. To identify which curve a point belongs to, hold Ctrl and hover over a point. The corresponding curve will be highlighted in the viewport. To select points, hold Ctrl and click on a point. If a single point is selected, you can also manipulate its Bezier handles. To select multiple points, hold Ctrl, click and drag the cursor with the left mouse button. When multiple points are selected, a transform box appears. You can move, rotate, and scale the points. The tool also includes two additional transformation types: skew and distort. And all this works in multi-layer mode without any smart bone glitches. The tool also includes a magnet mode. You can stretch the entire character at once, useful for creating smear effects in animation. The magnet has a double radius, allowing you to preserve the center of selection from deformation. To change the magnet radius, hold Alt, click and drag the cursor. To adjust the inner radius, hold Alt plus Shift. You can also scale points using the magnet by clicking the left mouse button, then pressing Ctrl and moving the cursor horizontally. If you press Alt instead of Ctrl, you rotate the points. Pressing Shift, three arrows will appear. Moving the cursor over the left arrow will blend the point's position with the previous keyframe. The right arrow will blend them with the next keyframe, and the down arrow with the zero keyframe. Besides selecting points, you can choose which layer you want to work with. Click Isolate Layers, and when you select points, the tool will isolate only the layers that belong to. For example, if you want to work only with the head, isolate the related layers, and when you enter Select Points mode, only points on isolated layers will be selectable. To cancel isolation, go back to isolation mode, hold Ctrl and click away from any points. To isolate all layers, press Ctrl plus double-click on an empty viewport area. Double-clicking also works for selecting all points. The Select Connected Points button is helpful when working with internal layers. If you click it with Alt, it will enable auto-selection of all points on the same curve. You only need to touch one point to add or remove the whole curve from selection. The tool also includes Tools Mode and Smart Bake, which work in the same way as in MR Pose tool. The Tools Mode is for animating on every second frame. And Smart Bake allows you to animate in the current frame without affecting neighboring ones. Now let's talk about how to manage point keyframes while staying on the skeleton layer. If you click the Keyframes to Markers button, the tool will scan all sublayers and place markers on the current layer at frames that contained point keyframes. This not only lets you see which frames contained keys, but also control them. You can move a marker to another frame and click Markers to Keyframes, and the tool will move the point keyframes to that new frame. You can also create new markers, which will create new point keyframes. If you delete a marker and press the button again, the corresponding keys will be deleted. In other words, you manage keyframes through markers. Note that markers don't update automatically. You need to refresh and convert them into keyframes manually. You can even convert keyframe interpolation. Select the desired markers, open the Convert menu, choose the interpolation type and click Convert. This tool supports relative keyframing. Just enable it and select markers at the frames you want to modify. All changes to the position and curvature of points will be applied to the keyframes on frames with selected markers. Markers will be especially useful if you want to retime your animation and move keyframes around. In the Keyframe Settings menu, you can choose whether to apply operations to all points or only selected ones, and whether to apply them to all inner layers or only isolated ones. There are also additional keyframes functions. You can copy values from one frame to another, create keys with values from the previous or next keyframe, reset values, delete a key, or clear all keys. Buttons 1 through 5 on the panel are used to store point selections. Click Without on one of them to save the selection, and click Without Out to recall it. You can also open a floating panel with all marker and keyframe functionality. And finally, this tool ignores warp layers, because it's not possible to simultaneously transform warp and the points controlled by them. That's why I've added a separate warp mode which lets you animate only warp layers and curvers. You can also configure how they appear on screen. I hope this tool helps you see point animation in new light and create more lively animations. I'd be happy to hear your feedback. Thank you.